Good morning, good morning, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, good morning. Doing well.
How's your week?
Pretty good so far. Seems like this one's getting off to a weird start with everyone rushing before shortened week next week. So
Yeah.
a lot to get done in just a couple days here.
Do you have to do Thanksgiving shopping? Are you hosting? For the viewers who don't
So
know, Lando's
no,
his
we're all
first
good
year in
for
a new
that.
home.
We're all good for that. But honestly, Friday after Thanksgiving, so Black Friday, it's pretty much the one day a year I actually buy clothes for myself.
Just buy online, bro.
It's just not for me. So I'll be going to Kohl's like first thing in the morning on Friday. Nobody does it anymore. There's no lines. There's no craziness. Everybody does it online.
Because what I
So I
just said,
get in, I stock up for the year, and I'm good to go.
it's exactly because what I just said. Everyone just does it online.
Yep. Zig when people are zagging.
You waited it out and it came back to you.
Yeah. Kohl's or Old Navy still have like tons of deals. It's just silly what you can get. And yeah, I don't need much, but I stock up for the year.
Old Navy has some quality stuff.
Socks, underwear. You could get like Dockers, Dockers pants, which are fine,
Yeah.
and anything else you need, sweatshirts, things like that. Yes.
Also, good baby clothes. You just need the baby basics, toddler basics, because they grow out of stuff so fast.
Yeah, I have siblings who've got kids that are all the way down the line, so we're rocking hand-me-downs pretty hard.
And mostly girls, right?
All girls.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you're
I have boxes of hand-me-downs, which are perfectly fine.
all right. Keep that in mind for March. I'm going to
Oh,
need
yeah.
to put you up.
Oh, I'll have boxes if you want them.
Beautiful. All right, you want to get into it? Plum
Yeah.
Island, Nelson DeMille, published in 1997. Now, this was a book I had never heard about before you brought it up.
I remember you said, which I was surprised because honestly, I thought in our previous conversations you had mentioned like, oh yeah, this is totally like a dad's book.
I think it's a dad author, but if you said, "Hey, name Nelson DeMille," book title,
First
yeah,
book of the series. I got you. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think
He's a known author, but you didn't know. Okay, I got you.
you could probably do James Patterson, The Firm, or Pelican Brief. You could do Dan Brown, Da Vinci Code. You
Yeah.
could do Michael Crichton, Jurassic Park. If you ask someone on the street, do you know Nelson DeMille? Yes. Do you know what book he's written? No.
Unless he's between 40 and 70 years old and likes to read. Because if that guy doesn't know this book and Nelson DeMille, I'm a little surprised then.
Now, let me just lead off with the synopsis, and then we'll get into everything.
Yeah.
Plum Island by Nelson DeMille is a murder mystery and suspense novel that follows recovering NYPD detective John Corey. Corey is recuperating at his uncle's beach house on the North Fork of Long Island when two scientists, Bill and Judy Gordon, are murdered at the nearby at their home on the North Fork. The pair has been researching dangerous pathogens for the government. Corey, intrigued by the case, investigates the murders, uncovering a complex web of secrets, corruption, high-stakes biological warfare, and a mysterious, unforeseen motive.
So that synopsis is okay, but to me that synopsis makes it feel a little nerdy, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I love the analysis of the synopsis that I take from ChatGPT 3 minutes before we start recording, and I added the North Fork of Long Island because if you think of, hey, this takes place on Long Island, it takes place in like Garden City or something.
Yeah, I would say it's not. I would say that's not true. If you say this takes place on Long Island, I would say no, it takes place on the North Fork of Long Island, like completely different.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with the area, it's isolated. It is not like city Long Island, New York. It is almost like an island of itself out there.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique culture, like Long Island, because if you go west to east of Long Island, you have Queens and Nassau County, which is very densely populated.
Yeah, that's what you think of when you think of Long Island. Yeah.
Yep. And then Suffolk County, as you go further out, then you have like more suburban, and then obviously the more east you get is South Fork is all the Hamptons, which is bougie.
Yeah.
And North Fork is a lot of agricultural
Wineries, old school fishing towns.
and orchards, a lot of like apple orchards. Like people go apple picking.
Yeah.
Monica, for her birthday every year, would go to the North Fork to an apple orchard because it's in middle of October. So that's when everyone goes apple picking and gets like apple cider donuts. And
Yeah.
yeah.
We used to do summer vacations on Shelter Island, which when you get to Greenport, which they talked about in the book, you take a ferry. That's the only way to get there. Ferry to Shelter Island.
And what's the one that's in between the two forks?
Yeah. I'm not going to remember the name.
Yeah, I mean, we just finished this book. It's a lot of beach towns, but they make it sound like it's kind of getting a little bit nicer and more developed than from
This book. So
was.
you mentioned this was 1997. I think this.
Correct.
I would say the secret's kind of out on that area in the past 10 years or so. Whereas when I used to go when a kid, it was still kind of sleepy villages. Now it's getting a little popular because I think the wineries are picking up and people are starting to deal with or not want to deal with the crowds on the South Fork, and so they go up to the
Which is
North
crazy
Fork,
now.
more laid back.
Yeah. Shelter is the island that's right in between.
Okay, there you go.
From Greenport, it's a quick ferry ride, or must have been like a 10 or 15-minute ferry ride.
It is quick.
Okay, we'll do quick overview and then we'll get into spoilers.
Yeah,
this book is awesome.
Yeah,
you're in from the first couple pages.
Yep, because of the character.
John Corey.
Anything else?
Is a wise ass, smart aleck, prick, borderline bastard, or like just
tough. So the way I was kind of thinking of it, I was just like, who is this guy a combination of? And this is not good enough, but I was just throwing it together. So big piece, Die Hard.
Oh, like that.
Big piece, John McClane.
Yep.
Little piece, James Bond. Little piece, Sherlock Holmes.
I want to give him even a little bit more.
Not enough. I know. I was just thinking about it last night. I was just like, what is the combination? But John McClane, because like wrong place, wrong time, totally like arrogant, but just confident of all hell. He is a good detective. He puts the pieces together nobody else sees, and then he's pretty good with the ladies in a different way.
I'm gonna. What about a dirtbag version of Roger Sterling?
Dirtbag, Roger Sterling. Okay, with the attitude. The attitude
with a quick whip.
Yes.
Quick witticisms.
But how about the writing of it too? Like, you think, how do you create this character? Is my thought. Like, you think he grew up with like people that he knew like this, or like even the language? Within the first couple pages, he said something. Oh, I wrote it down. He was talking about a guy grabbing a beer, like picking up a beer out of a cooler, and he said rescued the Budweiser from the cooler.
Yeah.
Like, just that language throughout the book was just perfect for me because it was like funny, it's catchy, it's interesting.
But it does not let up. It does not stop. The entire book, all 500 plus pages. Like there was a line when the female detective goes, "So what do you think so far?" He goes, "I think you're swell." Like the case. He's such a prick. It's just I think you're swell.
And it's so funny that the point of view of the book too, being his point of view.
Yeah, the first person is very interesting.
Yeah,
I love different from James Bond.
I think you need that in this. You're very different from James Bond. I agree. Where you're not getting narrated it, you're seeing it from his perspective, because he'll do those comments and then he'll come back with something along the lines of, "Well, I am an asshole, so that's why I said it."
I got a highlighted passage about that, but I actually didn't like the first person for the first 4 or 5 pages, but you get used to it.
Oh, okay. So you had to get used to it. All right,
yeah,
I got you. Yeah,
I think just like in anything, when you switch it up, he's so good. The other characters are live in his universe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he makes the story. Everything else kind of revolves around him. But the other characters do fit pretty well, where you have his not even like the villains in the story, but you have his kind of nemesis
Mm-hmm.
being the complete opposite. I would consider the CIA guy being like the complete opposite of John Corey.
Yeah, he's like, we can't have two studs in this room.
And just think about the guy who's saying this too, like 40 years old, New York City cops, got shot up a couple of times,
Yeah,
probably got a gut, probably got a
yeah,
belly, I think they say. Hair is probably going a little bit. So he's not like James Bond in like
yeah,
a shirt and tie. He's just like a New York City cop who just thinks he's the greatest thing ever.
yeah. I don't think he's going for runs and doing push-ups in his free time. He's like having brandy and coffee with his coffee. We'll get into a little bit of plot and then we'll do spoilers. Pretty good mystery. You switches it up halfway through. They go out the
And
Plum
even the synopsis that you read, like that's kind of the point of the story, is the huge misdirection, which I thought was really interesting.
and it happens quick.
Yeah.
The misdirection is, let's get into spoilers. Bill and Judy Gordon, they work at Plum Island, which is an animal disease research facility. Island off the North Fork. They take a ferry to it every day.
Real place, real islands,
real place, yeah.
Yep, this actually exists.
And so when they're found murdered at their home, everyone thinks it's related to that. Are they actually nefarious characters? Did they release a pathogen? Are they are they greedy? Are they in it for the money? They tried to release a vaccine to a foreign buyer, but turns out that they were treasure hunting. There's a legend of a pirate, Captain Kidd, in the area who buried $20 million worth of treasure somewhere on the North Fork or surrounding areas. And they get involved with a vintner, Frederick Tobin, and he is having money troubles. He hires them to dig at Plum Island for where he determined treasure is. And, I think they have a line that there's something about thieves, like if there's a conspiracy amongst thieves, then, the knives come out or something like that. He kills them to take all the money for himself. And Corey gets his man.
Yeah, and what I thought was really interesting about it is that because I reread, so this is the it's the third time I've read this. So when I was rereading it this time in the first couple pages, like John Corey, the detective, he kind of knows what happens in the beginning of the book as like one of his theories, but then we run down the whole Plum Island theory. But in the first couple pages, when he's first looking over the scenes, he does mention that they're involved in like a historical preservation society, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that like clicked on me, like, I didn't even realize that. And then he noticed dirt on their shoes at the scene of the crime because they were digging in the. So he kind of like knew that already. But then the whole story going down to the Plum Island is like, it's more of you have to check that box just to make sure it's not that. And it makes a great story. I mean, otherwise it's just like a little murder mystery, which is fine. But the Plum Island piece to it makes it a very, very more in depth and interesting story.
Yeah, I definitely, when I knew something, and he noticed that the ice chest was missing.
But yeah, that was a big piece. Yeah.
Yep. I love reading mysteries because you'll notice a line and be like, that matters. Something about that matters.
Yep.
And when DeMille mentioned the nautical flags that were up, but did not say what they were, I was like, I bet they were signaling to someone. Something about those flags matters. So something matters with those flags. And it was heavy load, assistance needed, something like that. It was two flags for like, large.
And he also like he knows these things and picks up on these things. This is why he's kind of like Sherlock Holmes, but he doesn't necessarily tell the people that he's with, and he doesn't tell the reader so much either. And
Yeah.
that's why he's just kind of like lone wolf. Let me work this thing out, whatever, which I like about the character.
And as he's working it out, he goes to Frederick Tobin's vineyard, which I think is the best scene in the book. His first time meeting Frederick.
The scene in the book, it is pretty good.
When he's when he's tasting the wines, and he goes very forward, so forward, so forward. He goes, actually, that's very subtle. Goes, I meant that one.
And it's just like, he's kind of like a guy that, I don't know, he's like a guy like you think you know in those situations. But again, I just can't, I picture this person in my head like John McClane looking, maybe like a little bigger, a little fatter, whatever.
Yeah.
With all these like hoity-toity Long Island's, North Shore people. Yeah. Not fitting in whatsoever and not caring, not trying at all.
No.
And then there is a really good contrast too with the female detective,
Beth Penrose.
Beth Penrose, yeah, because she can take it. Like, she's a female detective. You don't usually see they mentioned you don't really see females in that, so she's got a little chip on her shoulder, and now she has to deal with this guy. Who's the ultimate like ball busting guy, and she deals with them throughout the movie or throughout the book. Yes, it says she's very attractive, so he flirts with her relentlessly throughout it.
Like in front of people.
Yeah, clear as day. And even the parts where he doesn't say out loud. There was a part where they were first meeting with the CIA guy in the house. And the CIA guy refers to her as Beth instead of Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And the author wrote like Beth, like exclamation question mark. I was like, how do you call it Beth and not call her Elizabeth?
That's a great scene when there's like, there can only be two handsome studs in this room. It's so great.
And they're all in the kitchen discussing a crime scene. He goes into the dead people's fridge and grabs a beer.
Oh, it's so good.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I still like the vineyard scene because you're reading and he's like, do you taste wines often? He goes, I can tell the difference between a red and you think it's gonna be and a white. He goes, a red and a Budweiser. And then he's at the party later. He's like, can I get a beer? Can I please just get a beer? And then he's like, pour Mr. Corey a beer in a wine glass. And he's like drinking beer out of a wine glass the whole time.
And probably like a pig in shit doing so too. Just like perfectly happy with the Budweiser. How about that kind of so the villain, right? So Corbin, you don't really know he's the villain, but I feel like that's kind of like a James Bond scene where like you meet the bad guy, you kind of know he's the bad guy, but you can't figure it out until later. That to me is like a James Bond thing where James Bond always like runs into the bad guy. The bad guy seems to be this suave, like upper hands, and then eventually, whatever, it comes out that he's doing bad stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into that. That's a slight drawback I have. Were there any other bad guys introduced? Any other?
Nah, I would say the CIA guy.
Briefly, but he's out of the picture after like halfway through the book. And then the security guard at Plum Island.
Right. Yeah.
But he's not. He goes to his house in Connecticut once.
Is there any other bad guy?
A little bit. You think Emma Whitestone, the lady from the Historical Society, who he ends up sleeping with because he's
freaking awesome.
He's freaking awesome.
And he's irresistible for these. And of course, it says like, same thing. Beautiful, smart, intelligent. Yeah. Can't help but fall in love with John Corey.
Yeah, long legs, free spirit, beautiful, knocked out. Like, yeah.
Is there any other villain besides him? No, I don't think so. I mean, no.
Yeah, I like when a mystery has like 3 or 4. It's hard because like I just like it's the whodunit. Like, is it the butler? Okay. Is it the gardener? Is it the friendly neighbor? Mm-hmm. Is it the trust fund kid who wants in on the Baron's fortune?
This definitely doesn't have that, but instead it has the different scenario. So it wasn't just like who done it and why. It was the whole Plum Island theory.
Yes.
Was
And
there
so
a point at all? What about the the local PD cop, Max? Did you ever
Maxwell,
feel
yeah.
like, yeah, did you ever feel like he was involved? He was in on it in a way?
Um, I didn't.
I just kind of got the feel of like local town cop, rich guy out there. There's got to be some type of in cover up going on there.
Yeah, and you heard that Frederick was donating to the local PD.
Yeah,
Um,
there were those hints.
I definitely thought the Plum Island security guard more so than Max,
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
because he goes and beats him up, and he has a gun. Um, and so that guy's motive, was he like a protector for the treasure? Because we'll get to the very end. Why don't you get to the end? We'll kind of do like the
Yeah,
last scene.
yeah, yeah. We can spoil this.
So a big tropical storm, not a hurricane. Tropical storm hits the North Fork.
So good.
It's so good. Like, so for the viewers, there's a boat chase out to Plum Island during a tropical storm, and the whole time John Corey's wondering if it's a hurricane yet, or if it's still a tropical storm, because there's a 5 mile an hour difference in the wind speed.
Yeah,
In the
he's
meantime,
driving the
there's
boat, running out
massive
of gas,
swells.
guns firing all over the place, and we are led through paragraphs of, wonder if this is actually a hurricane or if it's just a storm.
I think we're getting close to this being a hurricane. Um, uh, so Frederick makes a run for the treasure when he knows Corey's on his trail. Corey knows that Frederick's making a run for the treasure on Plum Island, leave the North Fork, commandeers one of his boats to chase him down, and then him and Beth ride out to Plum Island in the middle of the night. Great scene.
Yeah.
Great. Like, I thought they're gonna have the showdown on the island. Turns
Okay.
out that it comes to kind of a high-speed chase there through the storm. Shots fired. They split up, one because they run low on gas. They need to just make a landing while Frederick goes for the treasure. Now, the treasure is missing, which I kind of didn't like.
Oh, you were expecting like at the bottom of that cliff or in that hole that the treasure would be there?
Yeah, I thought, like, hey, we got to get our hands on this sucker.
Okay.
And so they have a showdown. John confronts him, gets out of it, pins
Gets
Frederick
out of
down.
it. Again, like, how did he get out of it? He's
Yeah.
like dead to rights. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's got a flashlight and a gun pointing in his face with his hands on his head.
Yes.
Again, we're in spoilers, but I can't, I'm not gonna go through every page of the book. But he pins him down and then slashes his guts open and leaves him.
Yeah.
That's pretty brutal.
Yeah, he is brutal. And that, like, the reason for that, I think it even hinted is because he killed
Emma Whitestone.
Oh, Emma. Yeah, yeah. And so he does have like the cop ethical code, but at the same time, he's just a grisly kind of like brawler.
Yeah.
And he will do things kind of throughout the book spitefully, for sure.
And illegally. Like all the
Oh,
break-ins
yeah, he's not a run the rules kind of cop. Yeah.
I think just because, cop playing by his own rules has been beat. I'm like, they need a warrant for this. As he's breaking down doors with a fireman axe.
Yeah, and what's great is he's not so in the beginning of the book, he's not a detective. He's a consultant on this case. Like, he isn't representing the local law enforcement. So yeah, he has no rights to do any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But he's just the kind of guy who's like, hey, should I get a warrant or should I get the job done? Get the job done.
Yeah, he'll like ram into garage doors and be like, "This was open. We need to go investigate. Someone broke in here." And then as he goes through, breaking down doors and rifling through offices, that excuse kind of goes out the window and goes, it wasn't probably going to work.
It wasn't going to stick anyway.
So they get to Plum Island, they get their man, and then the security guard, I forget his name, something with an S, was out there, and he's like, yeah, I hid it so no one else will find it. Do you think he's like a protector of the treasure? What was his motive? I was reading. I was like,
I think he
he's
was
definitely not.
I think he was involved, like he was gonna get a cut or a split, and then I actually think he got kind of he made a play for all of it,
Yeah,
kind of foreseeing that this was coming, so he made a play for all of it,
yeah.
which
So that was
which is what Frederick did too when he
exactly
killed what's it called? Yeah. So
the
four
Gordon.
people, let's split it, whatever, and then when it comes down to it, the two people get killed, so now there's only two left, and then he kind of made his play for all of it.
Yeah, and then one other question I have: those numbers that were in the map in like the first quarter of the book, do they matter?
It's really confusing. I want to say yes, but they didn't do a good job of explaining it.
Yeah,
But they made it seem like this was like X marks the spot on the map. Kind of these clues matter. I don't know how much they did. I think they had to do with the location.
how do they find out the location of the treasure?
That's kind of it. I think that's how, because they were doing something with like the historical society, like mapping out the area. And I think it has to do with those numbers. So I
Yeah,
don't know if those were, longitude and latitude or height and width or whatever it is, but I
Mhm.
think it had to do with those numbers.
Because this book is so good, and then again, this book is we'll get to our ratings later. Love it. So he's investigating the whole who, what, when, where,
Hmm.
why, and then the how of how they find the treasure is kind of the last bit that he's trying to figure out, and I never kind of got if
Because
we understood the
yeah,
how.
because he kind of doesn't either. I don't think. Like, I don't think there is a point where he finally puts it together. Like, oh yeah, that's how it's done. That's
It
how
kind
they.
of just turns into a shootout.
It just yeah, they're just there in that place and time, and you miss that detail because yeah, the story kind of just takes over.
Yeah, so the breadcrumbs are like, okay, so there are these numbers. Are they related to paces away from landmarks from the 1600s? So I have to find these old landmarks. Are they chopped down trees? Are they a cliff? Are they rocks that have been displaced due to
On a
erosion?
governmental secured island where you can't just go walking around.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it is like they travel the victims travel to England to do some research to find out where the treasure is buried. And I was like, okay, so how will the whole time I was like, how did they find out where it was?
Where and how did they find it? Yeah, yeah. I don't think you're actually told that.
Because they talk about in the 1930s there was a kind of a treasure craze, and
Hmm.
that there were holes dug all around the area.
Yeah,
So they actually cracked something to find out exactly where it was, which I don't think we ever got a full explanation of why of
I
where.
don't think so either. No.
Okay, I'm just happy I didn't miss it. All right. Love this book. Anything else you want to say about it? Or you want to get into ratings? I kind of took us on a tangent there, but
No, I love this book also. The character is great. The only thing I would say is that uh it's a series, right?
yeah,
So it's the first of the John Corey series. He not that any of the books get bad, but if you read this character over and you need something to mix in between. Let's say that.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's good, it's funny, it's page turner, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you need something of substance to kind of mix in between.
Totally. I'm going to kind of go back to what we said in the beginning of the episode. Because not that many people know about this book in our generation, I'm going to be forcing this book into my brother-in-law's hands
I did the same.
from Thanksgiving and Christmas. You have to read this book. You have
Yeah,
to read this book.
yeah, I did the same. And it's a book where from the first couple pages you're in too.
It's long. It's hefty, but it is a
Yeah, it
fun
is
read.
pretty hefty actually. Yeah, but it's fun. Such a good character, such a good story, fun, funny, like all the above. Oh wait, that's what I wanted to talk about actually. So I think we had mentioned this where you were reading it. You were just like, how is this not a movie or a TV series?
It's the most character. Like, he's a character. Like,
Yeah. I just don't think they could do it. Like, I don't know who could make this short TV series. I don't think you can do it in a movie, but if you're doing like a TV series,
miniseries would be great.
I don't know who you could do. It's just his character is so freaking good. Nobody would like be up to that to me.
Who would be really good for this? I'm trying to think of 90s male heartthrob who could play it, or even 2000s. Oh, do you know who I thought of? Have you ever seen The Other Guys?
Yes.
Russell Crowe and The Other Guys.
Oh, wait. You mean the movie with him where he's the detective? No, it's not the other.
Isn't that called The Other Guys? Is the Will Ferrell?
Yeah. I know.
What's that one called? What's the Ryan Gosling?
Yeah. Something guys.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling. Actually, that's pretty good. Yeah. That's kind of what I picture a little bit. Like the look for sure, like floral shirts, like
barrel chest,
stuff like that. Yeah, it just goes and beats people up. Yeah. Okay, I can see that, but you obviously can't get him to do that. I don't know how it hasn't been picked up, because I feel like that's a hit right now. Like people picking up. I think of like Reacher. You ever watch that TV show where they were doing that? So they are doing these shows out there. I'm surprised no one's picked up on this.
Yeah, there's obviously been the John Krasinski, Jack Ryan series.
Oh yeah, the whole Jack Ryan series too. Yeah, sure.
Another one I just thought of. Now I'm drawing a blank. You need Josh Brolin, be a little bit more wittier. I don't know if he's as charismatic. He's kind of the strong silent type. You need someone pretty charismatic.
Yeah, I think the only way you do this is you don't get an actor that anyone knows. You actually pull like a retired detective out of Long Island.
Yeah.
Like, think of our buddies who we went to college with just out from Long Island. You can kind of picture those people.
You pick someone
from
Long Island.
Hey, I need you to be an asshole. And I need you to think you're better than everyone else. And I need you to be a little bit of a tough guy. Sold.
Done.
Easy.
Yeah. I
would love it. I mean, I would love if this became, and I would watch it, but I don't think it would hold a candle to the book.
But it's very thematic. It's very thematic. It's very cinematic. It's very
everything too. It has like the comedy. It has the action. It has women and sex and everything you could possibly think of for a really good series.
It has to be done. I'll bet you $5 that in the next, I'm going to give it a long time frame. In the next 15 years, it will be done.
All right. I mean, I've been saying it since I first read this, which is probably 10 years ago now. Maybe not 10 years, probably like 8 years ago now. I've been saying it.
It's the most it's the most entertaining book. It's definitely the funniest book we've read.
For sure.
Yep. And probably the best character we've read.
I would agree. This is my one.
It's fantastic. I'm never gonna be able to top you calling this as your number one book. It is such a great.
Not only that,
by you.
It's such a God. It's so cliche to say, but don't you want to read it again for the first time? You'll never read it again for the first time.
I feel like we're gushing about this, but not giving. Just every scene from the Old Town Tavern. We mentioned this in our last episode about him ordering the nachos and the potato skins and the wings and 3 beers.
In between, like going to the crime scene and back. Like he goes to the crime scene, goes to a bar, eats cheeseburger, bowl of chili wings, 2 beers. The girl comes, he flirts with her a little bit. She leaves. He finishes the chili, goes back to work.
And checks out the waitress.
That's right. I forgot. And checks out the waitress too.
God, it's so good. He's got like, that scene's great. Anytime he's messing with people in the historical society, because people are so wrapped up in their own worlds, and that he jumps into their world and they have these blinders on, and people don't get that he's fucking with them.
I think they just can't believe it. Because he's like a grown man and a detective, and yet he talks like, you can't even say it's like a 12-year-old. He talks like, like a 6-year-old sometimes.
But he's always on.
Yeah. There's always a reason. Even his sarcasm will try and get a rile out of people so he can kind of like test their mettle a little bit. So there is a reason to it, but it's very, very unique.
Yeah, in the boat chase in the middle of the tropical storm, Beth is giving him beers as whenever he does something good. He's like, I like this incentive.
Yeah, he's kind of like a puppy dog when it comes to that.
Yeah. All right. Awesome book. Plum Island by Nelson DeMille. Highly recommend. I think if you know anyone from Long Island, you got to give them this book. I know a couple people spent time on the North Fork. Also, all real places,
Yeah.
towns, locations, waterways. A couple places I know that I've been to.
Yeah, I think the author is either from out there or spent time out there.
Also,
there was definitely some knowledge of the area.
Yeah, and Nelson DeMille passed away this past September. So R.I.P. Nelson DeMille. We'll have a Budweiser for you. And okay, you want to give your rating, or you want me to go first?
Yeah, so I don't throw around tens. We just happen to be reading books that are in our top 10 list. So these books are going to be higher rated than other ones. Yeah, this is number 1A, 10. This is probably my favorite book.
Okay. I don't know if I can give a 10 to any book. I might not give a 10 to any book we read. 30 pages in, I'm like, this is a 9.7. This is so strong. I think I'm going to give it just a tenth of a point off, 9.6.
Yes.
For I just didn't get the how. I was like, okay, so how they find the treasure? How did they find it?
I know. Now you're getting to me. Now I gotta like reread it again to see if I missed something too, but I don't think so. I think that's just one of the details and the detective knowledge that you as the reader, you don't get. You're just not going to get that piece. Obviously,
9.6 is the highest grade I've given.
So big scores. How about in terms of recommendationable? This is like the easiest book to recommend to anyone, right?
Yeah, I feel like if it's 9, and if you're in the 9s, highly recommend. If you're in the high 9s, it's like you push this book into people's hands. 8s, you should read. 7s, read it if you're interested in the topic.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I'm scoring. 6s and below, and then obviously 3 and below. 6s, I was like, check it out if you want, and then 3 and below is like, don't read.
To anyone I talk to about books, I have recommended this one. It's high on the list.
Excellent book. Okay. Any other nonsense you want to get into?
Not that I could think of.
Yeah, we'll do a little Thanksgiving. I don't know if we're gonna have a book recap. We got Band of Brothers next. Ooh, let's talk about that. Let's do a quick housekeeping. For the viewers, I got a big week ahead in my day job, so Lando and I are going to talk offline about if we give you Band of Brothers next week or in 2 weeks. We probably will tape next Wednesday morning, whether it's book related or Thanksgiving related, or I don't know. Maybe we'll do a little fantasy football. I don't know. We'll talk offline about.
Oh, we are getting there. Yeah, actually,
we are getting there. But anyways, next 3 books up are Band of Brothers, Stephen Ambrose, The Firm, John Grisham, and Killing Jesus, Bill O'Reilly. Also, I found out great book section on the Wall Street Journal. They've got holiday recommendations for biographies, sports books, business.
Yeah, I always glance at that. I've only think I've come across 2 or 3 that I've actually picked off that list. That's good to know, though.
Yeah, and they have an article every week, what we're reading this week, which is very good.
Yeah.
And then, okay, do you want to do a theme for a couple books going forward? Do you want to do you want to talk offline?
Let's talk offline, yeah, because I'm still piecing together. I was thinking if we do something after Killing Jesus, so we do something, because that's going to be historical and, somewhat factual, I guess you could say. Should we try and do something around that same piece, but just fiction?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll piece that together. But I think we got 3 on the docket right now that people can follow along to, and that should keep them occupied until we're ready for a 4th.
Look at this timing. Well, guys, wrestling week.
Pitching? Yeah, we're doing all right here actually.
He lost his Bobo. Excellent timing. I kind of wish we were doing Killing Jesus Easter week. That would have been so good.
Ooh,
I want to get better at that. Like if there's
timing it up.
President's Weekend, we do Abraham Lincoln book.
Yeah,
Right
we
now
can plan that out as we go forward, like every month or so, just to make sure that week wraps around a book at that time.
It'd be or like Super Bowl week, we do a big football book, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So for the viewers, again, we're just getting our feet underneath us. We're going to get better at coordinating books with each other and with the calendar. All good things. Highly recommend Plum Island. That's it. That's all.
Just in time for the holidays. Plum Island.
Yes.
It's
put
good.
that in anyone 30 and up stocking this holiday season. Love it.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Take it easy.